Today's Let's Talk features Roundtable Talk co-host DC Marshall and Mita Mallick. DC Marshall is a CEO at dcmarshall.com brands, which includes Yummy Life Coaching, Diverse and Engage, and Girlfriend Praise. She has been featured on CNBC, Forbes, Fortune, Financial Times, Inc. magazine, and more. She is a Wall Street alumni, former corporate executive and leadership trainer for Fortune 500 companies. She's a diversity and inclusion subject matter expert working with Fortune 100 companies. She recently was awarded the Entrepreneur Magazine Top 100 Women of Impact and 2021 New Jersey Most Influential D&I Leaders. Next, I'm going to introduce Mita Mallick. She's a corporate change maker with a track record of transforming businesses. This past year, she added another mission: how to help as many women as possible get back into the workforce. She's currently the head of inclusion, equity, and impact at Carta and is the top LinkedIn voice of 2020. She's also the former head of diversity and inclusion and cross-cultural marketing at Unilever. She is a top LinkedIn voice, was recently one of 100 chosen nationally into the LinkedIn Creator Program. Without further ado, drum roll, DC Marshall and Mita Mallick. So excited to have you guys here. I've been waiting for this for weeks now. So first question, and you can decide who wants to answer it first. What inspired you both to start Roundtable Talk?
I'm going to start because I never like to follow Dee. We just started a newsletter as well on LinkedIn called Join Us at Roundtable Talk. And in the newsletter, we talked about how we started the podcast, which was I met Dee in 2017 at the Multicultural Women's Conference in the Marriott Marquis in New York City. And she was on stage and I was mesmerized by everything she was saying. And I was I have to meet this woman. And so our friend LaQuanda Murray introduced us. And we just immediately sparked. It was one of those connections. And I hired her to be my coach and to coach my team. And what Dee didn't know at that time, that I was going through a really toxic bullying situation at work, which I've spoken about at Community of Seven. And so I always say I'm the client that she can't get rid of. And
developed 5 years later,
developed a deep friendship. But our podcast is a reflection of that. Dee, what do you have? I know you have always great things.
Yeah. And how we met, Alan, we met because at that conference, it was Working Mother Media Conference. I don't know how many of you do this, but whoever are the VIPs at the conference, of course, you go over to LinkedIn and you check them out before the conference, so you have a point of connection. And I remember that Mita's LinkedIn bio at the time just caught my eye because it was something like disruptor badass or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be friends with whoever is in corporate America right now, bold and unapologetic about just being who they are. Thumbs up, high five in the chat. I saw you, Gabriella, and I think it's Pretty, right? For just the fact that she had just the boldness to just be who she is, to be quite honest. And as Mita mentioned, that was the friendship. So if you ask us, we're BFFs. Mita is an executive for a Fortune 10 CPG, a head of inclusion over there. And she brought my company in. So the reason I share that is because it's important for us to have opportunities. And sometimes it's other folks of color, of diverse background, who bring others along and inside the company. And so, yeah, so that's the backstory. And then we became friends instantaneously. We're like friends, we're going to be friends. Okay. Because you're interesting. So the podcast, everybody, as you've been listening, it's really our 9 p.m. conversations about, girl, what happened? Girl, what happened at work? He did what? Are you serious? Oh, we need to shake down. In any event, that's how the podcast happens. So I'll hand it back to you.
What I love about you two is that you guys are always bigging up each other. And I would love to see more of that in corporate America, because you guys are supporting, and you could tell from the dialogues that you guys have in Roundtable Talks that you guys have each other's backs. And you're always talking about the other person. And I really love that, that synergy comes out. So next question I have for you guys, what's the whole mission and purpose for Roundtable Talk? Tell the audience a little bit more about that.
So I'll start. I'll say do better, be better for allies. And for women of color, it's really just say, listen, we are here just amplifying our voices and our stories so that we can really inform the community. And that would be the business community about our experiences. Some of it is very validating, very affirming. And so for women of color and people from diverse backgrounds, we'd say our purpose and intent is to help you thrive. So that's one. If you are a woman of color, right? If you are an ally, our purpose and intent is to help you to do better and be better so that you are not the next #diversity_fail.
Anything to add, Mita?
No, this is why I never like going after Dee. I always try to go for our seat. Listen, I think when I go back to the conversations Dee and I had years ago when I was in my toxic situation at work, she had told me to journal. I was journaling. She had told me to get therapy. She gave me lots of great advice. And when I think about the podcast, these stories we're sharing are stories that many women of color will have behind closed doors with each other. They'll be texting, they'll be talking. And a lot of individuals who are allies don't get a chance to hear them, which is what we repeatedly hear from, I think, a lot of my white man friends who have reached out to say, wow, like, I didn't know you were going through this. Like, you never revealed this to me. But what I would say about why we share those stories and the tips for both women of color and allies is I think about all those things that has happened to me, that has happened to Dee, that has happened to clients that Dee's coached over the years. It's what would I have wanted someone to do differently? What could someone have done differently for me in that moment? And that's our hope, is that people will listen, and either it's if you're the one being impacted or you're seeing it happen to someone else, just like Dee said, be better, do better.
So I binged on all of the Brown Table Talk podcasts when it first released. Netflix, I was just like one after the other. I love the topics because they were so relevant and applicable to corporate America, and especially being a woman of color. Some of the topics, I'll read a few: how to negotiate the best offers for ourselves, how to get credit for work, how to get feedback you deserve, how to find career sponsors. Tell me, how did you guys come up with the topics?
I will tell you, it is such a joy and honor and privilege to record with Dee. I feel like when we record, I get so excited about those days because it's not work to me. It's just our friendship and what we've always done to help lift and support each other up. We have a journal. I've got Dee one as well. If you don't know Jasmine Foster of Be Rooted, she's amazing. She's disrupting the stationery category, and you can get these at Target. But we have just stories that we've been documenting. Some of them are from my journal when I still have my journal from when Dee was my coach. So I wish I would say that it's really hard to come up with topics. It's not, right, Dee?
It's not. It's unfortunate that there's real stories, and not just our stories, but the stories of everybody here. I see a lot of women nodding their heads here and even in the chat that these are our everyday experiences. And while there are organizations like Catalyst who have documented research on the tax, the Black tax or the color tax that we have to pay when we show up at work, they validate it in terms of stats and facts, the quantitative, or from a quantitative perspective. I think we validate from a qualitative perspective, sharing stories. It really validates. Does that make sense? The stories validate others. But I will say Mita is an amazing writer. So I think that helped in terms of us being really tight and pulled together, which is, I think, a whole nother conversation, not necessarily for this year, but why we have this amazing partnership with LinkedIn. It's Mita takes the lead in downloading and documenting all of our juicy stories into our show notes. And so we just we anchor on a story and we make sure that there's lessons so that it's not just chat, it's not just gossipy, it's not just messy, it's not just painful, but that there is very specific teachable moments, lessons to be learned, both for women of color and allies to do better.
So talking about painful story, both of you guys share some real intimate, heartbreaking stories of your experience in corporate America. Was that difficult to share?
It's just interesting. When we're recording, I don't think about it that way because it's just Dee and I talking, and then you get all these LinkedIn messages. And it's heartbreaking and it's validating, right? Because I am a writer, I am creative, and people might be listening to this thinking, oh, here's another story she's making up. I swear these are all stories that have happened to me, and they've happened to so many other women. I think there's so much power in storytelling. And right now I'm at a point in my life where I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So if someone hears my story and it helps them make a different decision, or it helps them with what they're going to do tomorrow when they wake up, that's what Dee and I are here for.
Make them feel less alone, because it can feel very lonely in corporate America. What reactions have you guys gotten from the audience? And my curiosity, what topic has gotten the most traction and responses?
I'll say the reactions are, again, women of color mostly saying, and this is one of Mita's story, like how you all are reading my journal. Mita gets a lot of feedback, like you all are reading my journal. So the resonance in terms of women of color, I think has been significant, but also from the allies. Some are just shocked and surprised. Wait, that really happened? Some are like, okay, that you can't be serious. But I will share from one of my WG girlfriends. WG is my white girlfriends, different from BG's, my Black girlfriends. But one of my WG girlfriends, she said to me in Florida, she said, Dee, I listened to the podcast. She says, not only am I learning how to be a better ally, she said, I'm learning how to be a better ally for myself. So as a woman, so while it is that we are speaking me from the perspective of a Black woman, and then Mita's view as a Southeast Asian woman, white women, my WG girlfriends are saying, I'm learning things that are helping me to be better for me. And that's okay. That's okay. There's no judgment if you have to learn how to be better for you and then be a better ally for us, then that's fine. We want everybody to learn. There's no shade or shame. Everybody hashtag no shame, no shade. We balance each other out, but like hashtag no shame, no shade. If you are my WG girlfriend here in the room or the WBs in the room, whatever you can learn and take away, I think it's all part of what helps us to improve on the silence and create more inclusive cultures. But before I move on, I will say, see, there's a comment in the chat right now to speak to the kind of feedback. Somebody in the chat mentioned, as a Black woman, I've been criticized for being loud, right? And so what is the feedback that we're getting? A high five and an and one. Yes, I'm hearing the same thing. Thank you for speaking up. And I think that there is an opportunity to learn in that we all come from different places. And so we all show up in different ways. And just because I show up different from everyone else in the room, it doesn't make me less than, it doesn't make me more than. My voice is louder, and I'm speaking from a Black woman, I'm going to be quite honest. Or if my hair looks like this isn't wrong, it's not bad, and this is not unprofessional. And I could go on, but I'm going to stop here and just hopefully I answered the question in terms of what are we hearing, because there's responses right here in the chat.
I'll jump in with specific feedback on episodes. I think some of the episodes, and Dee, jump in if you remember something different. The first episode we did, season 1, we recorded these in our bedroom while Dee has her office. This is my bedroom. And then you hit go live and you're like, is anyone going to listen to this other than my mom who doesn't know how to access Apple Podcasts? Like, who's going to listen to this? And we just got so much feedback about that first episode, which was about having your work stolen, visibility, finding your voice, office pet to office threat. I think everybody—
You're not supposed to be that good. When Mita killed it, and you're not supposed to be that good. That was a big one. Talk about that, Mita.
Yeah, this was one of the episodes I talk about being asked to present to the top 200 leaders at a Fortune 10. I was given the opportunity, prepped for weeks. I walk into my former boss's office that week after the presentation, and I know I had killed it because the CEO emailed me, people came up to me right after the presentation with immediate feedback. His feedback to me was, you're not supposed to be that good. At your level, you're not supposed to be that good. You do realize that, don't you? And you don't know what to say because it's a gut punch. You're like, is that a compliment? It's not. What does this mean? What do I even say? And so that's one that's gotten a lot of great feedback. We just launched season 2 with the LinkedIn Podcast Network. Our first episode, which is what to do when someone touches your hair. We've been getting a lot of feedback from allies because we talk a lot about that. And in that episode in particular, it was important for me to leave a lot of space for Dee to talk about her perspective as a Black woman.
So,
And what that means.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
You guys talk a lot about the importance of visibility. And Mita, you talk a lot about your experience from the respective lens as a South Asian woman, and Dee, you as a Black woman in corporate America. Can you guys talk more about your unique experiences and why it's essential to be visible at work?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in. I talk about it from my cultural perspective of growing up as the proud daughter of Indian immigrant parents. And I almost culturally was taught for a long time to be invisible. Children are to be seen, not to be heard. Everyone's an auntie or an uncle. You're not supposed to question authority. And then all of a sudden you go to corporate America and you're supposed to challenge your CEO. And my dad, rest in peace, always taught us to keep your head down, work hard, and stay out of trouble. And that's not how corporate America works. And so this idea that people would just notice magically what I was doing, if I wasn't the one advocating for what I was doing, wasn't going to happen. And so that to me, even to this day, is a real tension in my head, even when I walk into meetings. I'm afraid to take up too much space, which I know a lot of women of color struggle with. And Dee, I know you have a different perspective as well as a Black woman.
Yeah, as a Black woman, the visibility thing connects to value. And really, I'm going to give you just some historical context is my ancestors and my people were deemed less than human. And so when you talk about visibility, us being seen is more, it also speaks to value and the value as being equal and not less than. So there's cultural, there's historical context there. And so one quick story or just experience and a bit of insight, I'm hoping folks here will really get the lesson here. I was at an event in New York City some years ago, and it was a mostly majority Black room. And there was a white woman on the panel. She's super sharp. And somebody asked her a question, what happened with the election? And her response was, oh, women vote with their wallet. And I gasped out loud. And the reason I did was not just because of her response, but because I knew she was speaking from a blind spot. For those of you who are familiar with the Johari window, there's 4 quads and one is a blind spot. It's what you can't see. It's just like you're driving your car and on the right side, you just can't see. And when she said, we vote with our wallet, she was speaking about white women. She thought she was talking about all women, but that's because Black women are invisible. I'm going to say that one more time about this visibility and value. Oftentimes it's a blind spot. So it doesn't mean Jill or Michelle or Mita or Mary that it is evil doing. It is just, in some instances, it's a blind spot. She was speaking, she thought about all women, but she was really talking about white women. And she didn't understand that we have differences and Black women don't vote with their wallet. We're very relational. We're very much purpose, mission, heart, emotional connected. So that was not true. And so the answer to your question, why is it important in terms of, or for Black women? And I'm speaking for myself, let's just say, but also giving a bit of a narrative. The visibility comes from a bit of historical background of being less than, so not being seen or valued as equal to the majority population. And that example that I gave was a bit of a blind spot to say that's what it looks like. It's when you speak up and you're speaking for all and you're not really speaking for all.
In lines with that, Dee, in one of the episodes, you mentioned that it's essential to show up bold and unapologetic and how it's nuanced as a Black woman. You talk about generational considerations and you give this specific example of Michelle Obama. Can you talk more about that?
Oh my goodness, Lamb, what did I say about Michelle Obama?
So basically, Michelle had asked her mother, she was, I guess, hated her job as a lawyer and told her mother, I want to quit. And her mother gave her the advice of just suck it up, essentially, and that it's generational.
Yeah. Thank you. No, as soon as you mentioned it, I do remember. And for anybody who's either read the book or been on the Michelle Obama tour, Mita hangs out. She was there during the Michelle Obama, the tour. She was there. I only got invited to two of the president's holiday parties and one like last President Obama, the last party that he had at the White House, actually. But in any event, she mentioned that when she realized that she was not happy in her career, and community of 7, how many of you not happy or realize you're not happy in your career? You invested, you went to an Ivy League school and you've got a lot of skin in the game, and then you're not happy here. That was Michelle Obama's experience. She shared with her mother, and her mother was not sympathetic at all. And so a part of that is not surprising for me and for Black people, I think, for the most part, because it is about being grateful for what we have, for where we are, and sometimes not having the luxury to just go off and do what you love. No, you go off and you do what you need to do. She was extremely successful at the time. No, we do what we need to do, what we have to do to survive, not what we like to do. So we don't get the luxury. And so I think that's probably, I hope that gives a little bit of context in terms of why culturally it might be different to not have the luxury to have done that in previous generations. But now today, Black women are super bad all day, super bad, bold, and unapologetic.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying like Mita nod her head too, because I think your story, it sounds a lot like the Asian American immigrant experience too, where you're taught that your job is to your family and sacrifice, and that you don't necessarily find passion in your career. And it becomes like this generational kind of thing. So talking about cultural background and how it experiences the lens of how you interact in corporate America, Mita, in your first episode, How to Negotiate the Best Offer for Ourselves, you talk about how you negotiated owning your voice on social media because you're a contributor to Entrepreneur, Harvard Business Review, et cetera. Can you speak more on that? Because most of the time when you think of negotiating during a job offer, it's about pay, maybe benefits or whatnot, but you talked about owning your voice on social media. And I loved your story, and I love Dee's response where she dropped some jewels on the importance of owning your voice. Can you, Mita, first start on talking about that, and maybe Dee chime in?
Sure. Listen, I come from the school of DC Marshall. She taught me everything I know. So she taught me this, right? So like you think about, and this is like my sort of old school mentality of thinking about how you're compensated. It's your base, which I was always chasing the base salary. Maybe you get a bonus. And then as you're getting higher up, it's stock grants, it's equity, it's access to a leadership coach. Why not ask to hire DC Marshall as a part of your compensation package? It's benefits, it's all of those things. But one of the things I didn't realize was also asking for other items. Like I'd like to serve on a board, public board, private board. And so when I was negotiating my next role, I was just honest. I was like, listen, here are all the things that I'm great with, and I need you to know that I want to be on a board, and I need you to know that I write a lot. And it's always from a positive intent and a positive place. And so I just want to make sure you're okay with that. And my boss CEO was like, that's great. I love to write too. Awesome. But it was just having that conversation up front to make sure that the company knew that was something that was important to me. And if they didn't agree with that, then probably it wouldn't have been the right fit. But having that conversation up front, because if they had said no, or if they waffled, then that probably wouldn't have been the right fit for me.
And I love, Dee, your comments, because your feedback was that owning your voice is so important. And you talked about the experience of Black women owning their voice in corporate America and why it's so important. Can you like dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, I just think the opposite of that, the idea that when we walk into corporate and when we sign a deal or we sign an offer letter or accept an offer, that we automatically don't own our voice and we have to back into, I'd like to own my voice, is triggering. Because remember, again, as a Black woman, my people were owned. My people were property here in this country. And so do you see how it could be triggering that I don't own my voice? And so that's why some of these things, I hope you all can really understand why some of these things are really sensitive, or why it is you may have experience or conversations with people, particularly if it's a Black person, and maybe the reaction or the response is perhaps passionate. It's because there's historical context of, I don't own myself, I don't own my property, and I don't own my voice. And so that hopefully gives you a little bit of insight as to why it's important that we automatically own it. And I do believe what we're getting ready to see and what we're seeing right now is a shift in workplace and corporate culture where no, it's no longer that you need to ask for permission. Now, I will say this, at Diverse and Engage, we work with Fortune 500 corporations. Our largest clients are Fortune 10 across tech and financial services. And while I do respect for every leader here who's in that role, you do have a brand to protect in terms of the company. But a lot of things are being heavily imposed on the individual. So where there are corporations sometimes are, I'm going to be quite honest, messy, right? And so a lot of the regulatory stringent controls are being passed on to us, like owning our voice, like you're afraid of what we may say, right, Michelle and Jill, like afraid of what you may say that may look bad on the company. So just to give a little bit of context, that's what I see now. And Lan, I can't remember, what else did I share on the podcast about owning our voice? I love when people listen and remind me, what did I say? I have no idea what else I say.
No, you touch upon that, just like the importance of owning your voice, of not fading into the background. And what I found interesting was there was this one, and I forget which episode it was, but there was one episode where Mita was saying that she was told that she was a wallflower and not speaking up enough. And you countered it with the Black woman experience where you're too loud. And I found that really powerful because I know I've been speak up, but then when you speak up, it's not your turn. And it's that weird kind of dichotomy. And it's like the weaponization in corporate America that if you're a Black woman, you're too loud, be quiet. And as an Asian woman, you're too demure or whatnot, speak up. Yep. It's like you never win.
Yes. And I think the system, darned if you do, darned if you don't. But again, I do think current generation is going to shift the old rules. In fact, we are in the season of hashtag new rules. It's the world of the worker, the season of the worker. And I do think right now, folks are challenging and pushing back, and, or said more politely, like reevaluating. So if you are a leader here in this room today, I think this is an opportunity to decide to be on the right side of history. I think there's an opportunity for leaders in the room, as you are sitting around the table trying to solve for the great resignation, or in Mita's words, she says the great awakening. If you're the leader and you're trying to answer the question or solve for that, talk about how you are reevaluating some things that may be dated, given the diversity tipping point, which was the period beginning May of 2020. So this would be one of those things where employees don't own their voices. No, we're in a gig economy. How you're going to get the best of the best talent like a Mita. Mita is an executive. She's a high-level executive for a fintech. This isn't her first rodeo in terms of a high-level executive. She contributes to HBR, and she's been contributed or featured to all of the major business clubs from Inc., Entrepreneur, Forbes, Fortune. But if she was not allowed, like how does that, if she wasn't, I'm not allowed, what are we, children? Right? And so they would miss out on having this kind of talent, or top talent, or high caliber talent in the organization. I feel like we could talk about this for hours, so I'm just going to stop here.
I just want to add one thing, because people often ask me about this, about owning your voice and working for a company and still owning your voice. The smart thing to do, and the thing that you should always do, is write from a positive place if someone else is writing your check, right? So you can't be working at X company and indicting your current employer on social media or writing about them and don't think that there's consequences. I think to what Dee has coached me and taught me over the years is like, I'm putting out thought leadership. And so I think if you can, it's a win-win, especially in this market. Dee knows with all the clients she's coaching, attrition rates are high. And so if this is one more thing you're not going to allow someone to do, they're going to walk out the door. I promise you.
A thought that just popped in my head as you guys were talking was just the power. We talked about allyship, the power of passing the mic, right? And allowing others to speak, I think is really powerful too. And if you are watching this right now and you are in a leadership position, to be able to give voice to the voiceless, right? You don't have to speak at every panel. Maybe it's a direct report. Maybe it's someone else on the team. Recommend them, be a sponsor. Those little things can make such a huge impact on someone's career, just having that opportunity to speak. I'm going to read some of the comments because we have some really good ones. Michelle Cordy, the world is shifting. Own your voice and be your authentic self. Preeti has a really good one. New rules. The old rules were developed when we weren't in the room. And a lot, Madhur, hey Madhur, has a good one. As an Indian male, I find the issue is not about owning your voice. I decided a long time ago that I own that, period. It's just about being judged for your voice. So that's an interesting point, right? Like you can own your voice, but how will it be interpreted by the folks who are around you? Awesome. So other question I have for you guys. So Mita, you talk about your experience growing up in a South Asian immigrant family. It really resonated with me, especially the part where you talk about never being taught to ask for more, right? And that you always had to ask for permission. Everyone is an auntie or an uncle. You never called someone by their name, right? So how do we unlearn this, but still keep the beauty of our culture?
That's $1 million question. I haven't figured that out. I don't know. I think every day I still think about it. I think that with life experience and work experience, I'm more comfortable just showing up as me in corporate spaces. And that's taken me a long time with experience. I think for me, it's like, I can challenge my CEO in a respectful way. I can negotiate for myself in a respectful way. Like those are the ways in which I like to operate. And you know what? Like I'm letting down my family and my legacy if I don't ask for things and don't value myself and what I'm worth. So that's the flip I've made.
I think it also changes when you become a parent, because I know like you've probably seen my daughter's head pop up a few times. Like I was taught to shut up. You're supposed to obey your parents. And my husband, who's Jamaican, has a similar kind of philosophy. And so it's that juggling act, because I want to give her freedom and voice, but at the same time, it's like how you were brought up, which is this very kind of patriarch, listen to your parents and obey your parents. And that is the struggle.
I still wrestle with that every day. I think the thing that really flipped for me many years ago was like also culturally, there's this hospitality piece, right? You're supposed to please everyone and welcome everyone. And what shifted for me was I was once invited to a very senior meeting by like the head of the division at the time. And I was pretty junior. And I was like, why does she want me in this meeting? I'm scared. And someone said to me, she's invited you to this meeting for a reason, because you have thoughts to share. Don't disappoint her. And that was the flip. If someone has invited you to a meeting, pass the mic, given you a seat at the table, all of a sudden I thought, gosh, Dee got me in this room. I'm not going to disappoint her. And then it actually helped me really start using my voice, because guess what? Carta pays me for a reason, right? Like they pay me for my expertise and advice. So if I show up to meetings and I'm quiet, I'm disappointing them and myself. So that's how I've over the years thought through that.
Love that.
Thank you so much for this inspiring talk. I'm in the international kind of aid sector. And so I have an uphill battle reshifting mindsets in terms of vaccine equity. And what I see is an ongoing white supremacist colonial problem within the international aid sector. But more specifically domestically, I'm troubled by the US Census and representation at a time where representation of what sex you are, your pronouns is so open and understanding. The US Census puts Middle Eastern, North African, and a whole other grouping of people, which is a way that I've never identified as an Iranian Muslim woman in this country, under white. And that completely skews applications, representation. My husband's university, Italian is still considered an ethnic category, but Iranian, Muslim, and Middle Eastern is not. Something is wrong with that. And I wonder if you have any ideas on that, or you may not. I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you so much.
Yep, I do. So this is, and first of all, thank you for raising that, because how many of you knew that in the room? How many of you didn't know, posted it? You knew that? Okay. If you didn't know, just post in the chat or raise your hand. Yeah. The reason that was powerful is because it helps us to all learn, right? It helps us culturally, it helps us to increase our cultural competence when each person adds their voice to the conversation. We learn because we are often looking through our own lens. I think if you are a leader, you have the responsibility to look through a multicultural lens and to know more about us. But in any event, I just want to acknowledge you for raising that. Here is what I would like you to think about is the way to change that. And the way change happens outside of corporate America, it happens where laws are made. It happens at the policy level. And Mita knows I am somewhat passionate about this work at the policy level. So while I would say a majority of my work is in the private sector, I launched an initiative called Diversity on the Hill, and it was specifically to educate and inform and increase the diversity on Capitol Hill in terms of everyday people. I call them EDPs. Everyday people would be people who are not necessarily connected to Congress, to lawmakers, don't necessarily understand all of the inner workings, but everyday people like you and me who have a responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable. When they ask for our votes, then we need to have conversations with them to let them know what things are near and dear to our hearts and what are some of the things that we are concerned about. And this would be a concern to bring to your local official. Is everybody following? If you have this kind of concern about how I am being represented in the census and why it is that the census doesn't leave room for me to identify, however it is that you identify, you would raise that as an issue that I am not represented here. And how do we change that? Does that make sense? So I'm encouraging, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for you to think through that and to raise that to your local officials about how you're being represented, and be willing to go down the path of representing the things and amplifying the change that you want to see here. And I would encourage others of you here, if you are really concerned about things outside of the workplace that have to do with you and your community, you and your children, you and your mom, your dad. I think you want to raise it at that level. And I'd be happy to connect offline. So just connect with me on LinkedIn and I could share with you one of the initiatives, Diversity on the Hill. Another is called NADI, National Association for Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. So please connect with me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to share.
Love that. We have a question from Jill Miller. Jill, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. Thank you, Lan, and thanks for being on. You ladies are wonderful. I love following you. So just a tiny bit of background. So I run an organization that was founded to create economic inclusion in the supply chain in CPGs specifically right now. And we're trying to address racial wealth gap through mentoring, acquisition, and developing KPIs that support a more inclusive supply chain. One of the things we have noticed is because it is very, I just call it legacy status quo and very commonly male industry, we've started a primer when we introduce entrepreneurs into a CPG or into a supplier. And we've started a primer to ask them to think before the meeting, to maybe get prepared that they treat that entrepreneur with respect and kindness and understand their identity and maybe where they're coming from. So we give a little primer. Ours is connect first and do business later. Don't just start shooting emails and things like a lot of us white people do and just demanding things out. Pass the mic in the meeting and let the entrepreneurs speak. And then I always just say meet on common ground, knowing that there's like a piece of the universe or the divine in all of us. And that's good enough to start and build from there. And this is, to me, it was amazing that this is not like common practice, right? It's something I've always done, but I'm interested in what you'd add to it, because I think it's really important. I think a lot of the lack of forward movement is centered around fear. And I want to do what I can before meetings to set people up to remove some of those fear barriers on both sides.
So I'll add this real quick, Jill. So we do Diverse and Engage. We do this work specifically in the supplier diversity space with both WeBank and NMSDC. And
Okay.
yes, so with regard to supply chain, while a lot of corporations are well-intentioned when it comes to diverse suppliers, a lot of the initiatives are specifically directed to the diverse-owned business, but it doesn't address the decision makers in that path. And so we have two things, and I'd be happy to share offline. One is a MAPS model, and it'll just give you an idea of what to think about. And it is basically a model that resists a deficit approach. Whenever the supply chain program only speaks to or addresses the supplier and it doesn't address the institution and the bias and all of that, then it's a deficit approach. It's saying something is wrong with the women and people of color owned businesses when it's only focused, when it's only mentorship. So I'd be happy to share that with you offline. And we do a program. One is called Amplify, is for women of color. The MAPS model includes mentorship, allyship, partnership, and sponsorship. Partnership is a place where women and underrepresented individuals are at a loss. So I'd be glad to share that. And you could maybe take it back and revisit what you're doing in the supply chain.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We've got a partnership with the YWCA, so we're trying to develop some really good tools to help our entrepreneurs on that side of it. Awesome.
Thanks, Jill. And in the chats, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I guess someone named Mita was like, I keep on getting confused when Dee mentions Mita, because I think having someone that has your name, it's rare that I've seen another land in corporate America, but just having someone that looks like you, has the same name as you, introducing books and curriculum and all this other stuff. When I was the general manager of See Her, our motto was, if you can see her, you can be her. Sometimes even just being a presence makes a huge impact and you don't even know about it. For these ladies, Mita and Dee, you guys having a voice in a podcast world that is predominantly white male cis and like kicking ass in it is powerful for people who are on this call. Right? These small little things. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, or
just as a mom, I am really trying hard to think about how I can raise my kids to be kind and inclusive human beings, which is not easy. And so even I say inclusion starts at your kitchen tables. I don't care how many billions of dollars we spend on corporate training. It doesn't mean much if you aren't thinking about how you live your life outside of work. And even with children, for anyone listening who has young people in their lives, be careful about the language we use. We describe Mita as crazy, stupid, lazy, strange, weird. And that is the gateway to stereotyping, which leads to hate. So even with my children, I'll say, you described so-and-so as funny. What does that mean? Oh, she told me a funny knock-knock joke. It was Morgan, right? So that's fine, but don't call someone funny looking. We have to be really careful because the leaders that we were once children, right? And they're all going to enter our workspaces and workplaces one day.
Love that. And I left the link for their podcast. Make sure you guys also review it because that's how you show them love. So watch it and review it. You guys have 200 5 stars. So closing up, what you guys always end all of your talks with 5 tips at the end of each of your podcasts. So what 5 tips can you leave our audience today?
So number 1, please listen to the Roundtable Talk podcast, but as an educational resource. But if you are a woman of color, have someone who's on their journey to be an ally, listen to it. That's what I think is really powerful. Number 2, as Dee has taught me, be an advocate for yourself and your career. If you're not going to advocate, who else is going to advocate other than you? And I think the third, which a lot of us underestimate, the question I need to ask myself is, who am I advocating for? Just like Lan said, who am I passing the mic to? So you can do both. You can give and receive. All right, Dee, over to you.
And number 4, I would say, use your voice to speak up in terms of representation, what you don't see, and be an advocate for really what you want to see. I think we all have a responsibility, opportunity to use our voice, whether you're in a decision-making seat or not. Look to the left and look to the right. And if it does not look like the country, then you have an opportunity to speak up and to raise your voice. And then number 5. Oh my goodness. Number 5. You know what? I'm going to say, look at everything through a social cultural context. In other words, never look at anything or any person just for what on the surface. Take into account the entire social cultural context in terms of historical context, and what the story and what the journey may be. And that way you'll be able to be softer, non-judgmental, and there you will do better and be better.
Love that. People are loving the do better and be better. I think we need to make it a bumper sticker. It's amazing. Thank you for everyone who made it to live stream, and make sure you download and listen to Brown Table Talk with DC Marshall and Mita Mallick, because they will dish out all of the deets during their 20 to 30 minute podcast. For those who are in the live Zoom audience, please turn on your videos. Please unmute yourself, because these ladies deserve a round of applause.
Yay, 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 yay.
Yay!
Great.
Yay!
Awesome.
Thank you.